Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to everyone on the another series of our thought leadership session. We do this every last Thursday of the month. Interweave is a professional diversity consulting organization that offers a range of services to help organizations foster diversity, equity, and inclusion at the workplace. Interweave's service include a suite of offering in POSH, DEI consulting, audits, women leadership programs offered in form of training, e-learning, art, and theater. You can reach out to us at mira@interweave.in or www.interweave.in. The details are available in the comment section here. You can also follow us on social media for our upcoming events and programs. A quick update for the upcoming Pride Month. We have curated an evening celebrating the Pride Month called Rainbow Tales, an event showcasing a colorful spectrum of expression through multiple forms like theater, poetry reading, stand up, and a drag show. This is happening in Bangalore on 14th of June, 5 p.m. onwards at Bangalore International Center, Domlur. Tickets are available on Book My Show. We will also share the link in the comments. Get your friends, colleagues, network, teams, etc., and be a part of this. Before we get on to today's session, a couple of things for our viewers. There is a CC closed caption on all the three platforms available. You can enable or disable this as per your requirement. Please write your questions in the comment sections and we will take it towards the end of the session. Today's conversation is on building inclusive organizations for maternity returnees. We have Shubhashri Naldar, who's head Women Leadership Development and Interweave Consulting. She's in conversation with Divya Surya, Director Consulting Expert APAC Global Technology Operations Delivery Center CGI, and Dr. Manvi Pathak, head Learning and Organization Development at Samson Research. Welcome all of you, and over to you, Shubhashri.
Thank you, Mitch. A very warm welcome to all of you who have logged in today, and thank you for taking time out and joining us. Welcome, Divya and Manavi. Very excited to be speaking with both of you today. I'm particularly delighted that we're talking about how we can build inclusive organizations for maternity returnees, because this is a topic very close to my heart. I regularly work with a lot of women leaders, and I frequently hear from them some of the challenges that they face. On the other hand, a lot of clients that I speak to, they talk about the challenges that they're having with building a leadership pipeline of women leaders. And they talk about challenges with women returning from maternity and leaving after some time, or even downsizing their aspirations. So I'm personally hoping that today's conversation will help us to talk about some of these challenges and also some potential ways in which organizations can become inclusive. I don't believe that the transition that a woman goes through during maternity in the organization should be something that she has to figure out on her own. I believe that this is something that should be enabled and managed successfully so women feel supported. And I think it can make all the difference between losing women after maternity or helping them reach their full potential. So, with this context in mind, Divya, here's the first question to you. As a working mother yourself and a senior leader at CGI, what do you think are some of the challenges that working mothers face today, and during the whole maternity transition process?
Thanks, Subhashri, and good afternoon, everyone. So basically, before I take up the challenges, I would like to highlight something on the statistics about the working mothers all over the world. As per the survey from 2021, there are around 70% of working mothers, all in the developed countries, and in the developing countries, we have around 30% of the working mothers. Having said that, I will talk about the maternity transition challenges, what women face in the organization. So, to start with, when we consider the pre-maternity phase, basically, I would like to highlight about some three of them where to start with, the first one could be the lack of workplace support, right? So there might be a lack of clear policies in the organization, or a lack of understanding between the managers or the colleagues, which basically add on to the stress of the women member who is in the maternity transition. The other one I also actually was going through is basically on the career progression concerns, right? When you are planning for a long maternity leave, basically you think about missing out on the opportunities you might have got if you have not gone on a leave, the missing promotions, or might be you also feel sometimes that you're not perceived as what you should be in terms of commitment to the work you're doing today. And also, the third one I would like to highlight is basically on the financial planning stuff. So with the new member adding into the family, there will be always thinking in the mind of the mother, like, how do I plan my long term financial goals? Along with that, if you're also planning to go for a long term maternity leave, not only the paid leave, but you're also planning to go for an unpaid leave for extended 3 to 4 months, then there's also another concern which might get into your mind, about how do you manage expenses during that point in time. So these were some of them which I could highlight from the pre-maternity phase. During the maternity phase, also there are several set of other challenges which you face with the physical and changes in your body. The hormonal changes could be, or the emotional adjustments you have to go through. There will be lot of stress in terms of physical and emotional well-being. Other than that, the other one could be the separation anxiety. I think we all also go through this. I was also I was also going through this when I was in the last months of transition, where I had to leave my child after being with her for like almost 6 months, and it becomes very difficult, and it is actually emotionally difficult for a mother to separate from the child. The other thing I was going through specifically is from the upskilling concerns, right? You are on a leave for at least 6 to 9 months, and you know how the technologies are improving in the market today, where there might be changes day to day, and you have to upskill yourself to meet the commitment or the target in the organization. So that's another one you might think through when you are in the maternity phase. And post maternity, there are many to talk about. I think even from the day you join back to the work, even today, like after 3 years, and I am sure that the mothers who have a kid of 18 years also go through a lot of challenges when they step to the work. To start with might be the one which we always talk about, right? Maintaining the work life balance. So we all know that taking care of a child is and the family is basically a 24-hour job, right? In that we have to get some 8 to 10 hours of the time for the employment as well. So this actually is an exhausting period for the mother or the woman, and it actually takes a toll on her emotional and also on the mental health. Other than this, might be I can give you an example over here, where I was managing a team of 20 members, and I had a woman member whom I used to notice that she was not committed to work, and she was almost stressed out throughout the day. And when we tried connecting with her, as you all know that it might not they might not open up at the first time, right? Then we wanted to take a help of HR partner, and then even the leadership team try to make her open up. And when we understood, when she started explaining what challenges she's facing today, she was actually having a lack of support from the husband and the family as well, right? So along with the organization support, even the family support becomes very important to the mother who actually steps out for the work. So might be the other one is the mommy guilt. I think we all feel guilt when we leave our child to a daycare, or we also feel sometimes that we miss out on the milestones of when the baby grows up, right? So these are some of the guilts, I think, which every mom goes through. Along with that, even when you go out for any of the functions or any occasions, right, you also hear from your relatives or the friends, where they ask you a question, and specifically this question comes to the women, where they ask, how do you manage if you go to work, right? And also there will be a saying stating that taking care of the child is cannot be done better than a mother, right? So you should have actually set up your mind, going out and working, and you've managed things yourself. But when these type of guilt when these type of conversations happen, basically you feel again guilt, right? So these are some of the challenges basically a mother feels. And other than that, might be when there is a choice to make, right, in terms of whether you want to consider your career or your family. Usually the challenge will be at that point in time, or the discussion or the thinking will be basically to take care of a family. That's the one which the women chooses most today, other than the career advancement. So along with that, I can also talk about something in terms of not getting a quality time for herself, or not getting a quality sleep due to various reasons, right? Even you go to work, there are stress from the work side. At home also you have stress in terms of taking care of multiple responsibilities. And also the morning rush is something, right, which is more stressful or challenging for a mother, where she has to cook, she has to get the child ready to the to the daycare, and she also has to get ready, commute to the office. So there's a lot of stress around, and I think everybody feels this as a challenge. And other than that, I think one specific challenge what I face is what I want to highlight here, is when you come back from office to home, right? Your child will be basically waiting for you. So you will be already in a limited energy, you should have already drained up, right? But the expectation from the child is to basically play with her, concentrate on her, the rest of the time you are with her. So this is another challenge what the mother face today. So with that, I'd like to give it to Manavi to add on more points into this.
Thank you, Divya. I think a lot of examples shared from your experience, which will be very useful for everyone listening in. So, Manvi, in your role as an L&OD specialist, I know you interact with a lot of women leaders very closely. So, if you could add to any other challenges you hear, and also tell us about, share some examples of unconscious biases or microaggressions that working mothers face today.
Yeah. So thank you, Subhashri, and I think very well the context has been set by Divya. So just one of the things, like Divya has related a lot of things from the from a personal examples. So what I can just say that most firms fail to provide support to women during maternity transition, and most of the times, like barring a few companies, I think of course work has been done. A lot of companies these days are doing a lot, but still most of the time you see women often left frustrated and disappointed. So there was a study done, and it was reported in the HBR, which I had come across, which was a very interesting study. They had interviewed women on maternity break in UK and Ireland, and it was like a multi-phase study. In that study, what they had done is that in the first phase of the study, they had interviewed women, and who were kind of getting back to work after maternity break. And of course, as mentioned by Divya, they had concerns about leaving the child to another caregiver, but they were also looking very much looking forward to the routine of working and rejoining work with their colleagues. and also going back to the place where they have actually proved themselves. Okay. And but in the second phase of the study, where they interviewed women after they have returned to work, most women felt that the return to work was tougher than it was expected, and they experienced a significant decline in the positive emotions that they had one before returning to work. And it actually reflected the lift challenge of this transition. Most firms they see this maternity break as a disruption, and the people who went through this, they actually reported, the people who were interviewed for the study, they reported that a lot of people, they felt their colleagues had a lot of unconscious bias against returning women, and the professional relationships had also deteriorated. So not all is negative. There are some positive stories also. Some companies which recognize this break no more than a brief interlude in a person's career, they actually provide very supportive culture, and the returning women, they report a renewed sense of energy and focus on their work, and they feel very, very valued. Okay, so this is one of the study that I wanted to bring out. And when you talk about the biases, see, biases, microaggressions and biases actually refers to a range of negative judgments, stigmas, and stereotypes that women with children confront in the workplace. And basically, if you see what is the genesis of these biases, is the we have a kind of a ideal of cultural ideal of an ideal worker and a good mother. So an ideal worker, who is an ideal worker? We all have a some kind of a stereotype of an ideal worker is someone who has undivided attention and commitment to the work that you do. Okay, the 9 to 5 work that you do, you have kind of undivided attention and commitment. And a good mother, like as Divya was also mentioning, is somebody whose primary devotion is towards the child and the family. So people do have this thing that the child is taken care of best by the mother. So this motherhood bias is there, and which actually there's documented research which shows that it results in a range of negative career outcomes for women, which results in limited career opportunities, curtailed advancements, and also the pay cut, the pay that you get. In fact, there was a study done in UK in the year 2019 which showed that women without children, they earned about $3 to $4 per hour more than women compared to women with children. Okay. And also I feel that there's another research which shows that this motherhood bias is much more stronger in jobs which are very male dominated and which are very highly skilled, because the norm or the norm of an ideal worker is very salient here. So in those kind of jobs, women with children are seen as less capable, less competent, and less committed. Yeah, I'd like to stop here.
Thank you, Manvi. Some very rich perspectives there. Divya, you also interact with a lot of other women leaders, and you have team members who are women as well. Would you like to talk about any unconscious biases or microaggressions any of them have shared, either at work or in your own personal circle?
Yeah, sure, Shubha. So I think Manavi has covered most of it, but I would like to add on two things over here. So one is during the hiring side, right? So there is lot of stereotyping which happens. So there are basically assumptions when women return back to work from a long leave. There is the assumption in terms of the women might not give a prioritize the work when compared to the family, right? Or might be they will have a lack of dedication to their careers. This is what actually is in the mind of the people when they do the hiring, when a woman come back from a long leave. And this actually gets reflected in the interview assessments or the candidate evaluation which happens for these women who's looking out for a job. So here I would like to take one example. So there was a woman who was looking out for a job, and we had a requirement on the business analyst front. And when we got this resume, we found that she is coming back to work after 6 years of long leave. And then as usual, right, everybody, as we spoke about stereotyping, bias, and it's there in everybody's mind. So we also thought, how should we go about with it. And when we spoke to her, what we understand is, she was searching for a job from some time, and she's already been in the organization from last 2 months, when we met her. And she was actually undergoing lack of support and bias from the team, and she was not given the priority like how other team members were giving her. When we spoke to her, and when we analyzed the experience she had and the aggression towards career advancement, what we thought that we should take her, and we should make sure that she gets the respect what she's looking for. And you don't believe me that she's the best we have in the team today. So it's not that this doesn't even say that every woman comes up for the work might not be that aggressive about career advancement. There are lows, there are highs, but I think we should give an opportunity for the women for the career advancement. So another one which I would like to talk about is basically on the recognition front, right? So even though a mother who came back from work, she tries hard to cope up with the skills, and also efficiently does the work. But because of the other excuses she take, right, sometimes I feel that there is not that level of recognition given to the women than the other members in the team. So these are two things I wanted to highlight, Shubha. Thank you.
Great, Divya. Thank you so much. Very, very interesting points there, especially on the hiring front. I know a lot of women try to return to work and they find that, they're often even offered internships or lower salaries, maybe even lower than what they were making when they left. And, that becomes quite challenging. In fact, just returning back becomes challenging for a lot of women. And what you were talking about, how working mothers get busy and they don't get time for networking. A lot of women leaders I speak to talk about how they don't have time after the working day is over, and this impacts their professional careers because a lot of networking happens after office hours. So that visibility impacts their own growth and advancement within the organization. I just want to add a couple of biases and microaggressions I've come across here as well. One of the things that some women face is that they're actually penalized for the period that they're away from maternity, and the performance rating is given including the period that they were away, so giving them a lower rating rather than just considering the period that they should have been there. You talked about advancements, Divya. Also, a lot of times, such women are not considered for travel or international assignments, and this is what we call as benevolent sexism, where there's an assumption that she's a young mother, so we shouldn't ask her. And again, this impacts future career growth and opportunities. I think in terms of microaggressions, you would be surprised at the kind of comments women have shared with me they've heard, and things like it is pocket money for you, or I have a family to support, very subtly saying that I deserve better pay or I deserve a promotion more than you do, or things like you don't have to be serious about your career, or oh, so you're pregnant, so you're going to go on a vacation. So very insensitive comments, a lot of casual sexism as well. And this really causes a very toxic environment for the working mother. So I think we need to ensure that there's more sensitivity around the kind of comments that women hear at the workplace. So great. Divya, this next question is for you. So what kind of support are working mothers looking forward to from organizations? You can talk about that.
Yeah, so I think there are many policies are already being put together in many of the organizations. But the few of them which I like to talk about today is, as we all know, the flexible work arrangements is something women mother look out for, right? So uh, and also I think with COVID kicking in, the mentality of the organizations have changed, right? And we all have a support in terms of a hybrid culture in the organizations today. So I think some part of it is already been taken care by all of the organizations, but there are some more to add on. Might be an opportunity for a women to giving them a part-time work, or giving them some compressed work weeks, or helping them with the job sharing. These are some things I think which will help the mother along with her childcare responsibilities to contribute to their career, to her career advancement. The other one is, I think we all know that in 2017, Indian government has passed a bill where mother who's going for a maternity leave should get 6 months of paid maternity leave, right? So I think this is one which is actually helping the mothers today, where it gives some time for them to recover from the childbirth and bond with the child, as well as it will also give you time for the transition to back to work. So other than that, I think the few more things could be might be giving extra benefits or a parental leave to in the organizations, where mothers or the father will get an additional time off to take care of their children as they grow. This is one more, I think, organization can look for. And the other one could be the childcare support, right? We all know that when women commute to work, so there is a child which she has to take care. Either she has to put them into a daycare or a school, or some arrangements had to be made. So I think in that area, might be organizations can help, where they can provide some facilities for on-site children care, and also having partnering with the local daycare, which actually help with some discounts when you admit the child to the daycare, and also subsidies basically for the childcare expenses. These are some of the things which organization can think about. And I also think, I mean, one example I would like to add here, where one of my close friend, it's like 7 8 years before, what I noticed, one of my old friend, she had around a 10-month old kid, okay, and she used to get her child for the daycare, which is near to the office, and for that she used to travel around 8 to 10 kilometers. And why she did all that is because she want to spend time with her child, and she also want to attend her whenever there is a need for her. And also sometimes I think if there is a breastfeeding necessity, then she can just go breastfeed and come back. So what I found in her is a sense of joy and fulfillment, right? So I think this childcare support is the major one which all the organization has to look at. The next one could be the lactation support. So I know after 6 months, if women come back to work, still there will be some help required in providing the designated lactation rooms, or some private hygienic area with all the facilities for expressing the best breast milk. This is one thing also organization can think about. So other than that, professional development through some trainings or through mentoring, which can help the women employees to advance her career. And also I also feel that there should be a open communication between the women who return back from the maternity leave, so that the other supervisors or the HR partners understands what support she needs. Is she comfortable, or is there any challenges which needs to be addressed, right? So that communication should be on for some period of time. Other than that, making sure that the women member feel inclusive and valued in the organization is something. And also might be when women come back, right, there are some boundaries set for herself. So we cannot just make sure that she's available all the time. She can take up some extra work, right? So there should be some boundaries, or there should be some respect towards her, and there should be a discussion with her before any commitment is done against her, right? So these are some of the things I would like to highlight, Shubha.
Thanks, Divya. A lot of great inputs there, and it'll probably also help us summarize what organizations should do when we talk about building inclusive workplaces. So, Manvi, as a specialist in the LNOD space, I know you must have a 360-degree perspective on this topic. So, the transition also requires people, managers, and teams to be part of this process. So, what challenges do they face, and what can organizations do to enable them as well during this maternity transition?
Yeah, so thank you. So, managers are a very critical part of the ecosystem. The people who are there. So, this person who has gone on maternity leave. So, the managers and teams, they definitely get impacted. And, depending upon the, economic scenario, right now, if you see if somebody goes on maternity leave, they won't even provide a resource as a backfill. Okay, so the manager definitely has to stretch, and in that stretch the manager also has to be empathetic, okay, and understand that this is a time that I need to support. I also have a very critical role to play. So I think it's the educating the managers and making the a lot of changes I see organizations doing. I'll just give you an example, like this menstrual leave policy. A lot of companies have. So, and internally in in one of my ex organizations, we had introduced this policy, and we found that people this policy was there, but there was a lot of negativity from the male colleagues. So we decided to have some kind of a education and communicating the people about this policy. So what happens is that getting a policy is one thing, but making the people understand and accept the policy is there. So lot of policies are there, like Divya was talking about, so many beautiful policies, so many things that we can do, but it's the managers and the team members who have to be supportive. So that becomes very, very important. And also understanding that we are there to help each other. A lot of companies these days are coming up with so many things. There's a concept of this shared leave, in some of the organizations, which I feel is an excellent way to promote collaboration, where you can suppose if I have some casual leaves which are extra and you are falling short, I can pass on the leaves to you. I can give. So those kind of policies are there to improve collaboration. So many things are there which companies are doing. But yeah, coming to this part, I think educating the managers, making them feel, and also I feel managers also, the organization also has to understand that managers are also stretching, they are also having problems. And also understanding the manager's perspective, what is it that the organization can do to help the managers manage this transition. So, and one of the things that I just wanted to add, because you had mentioned about this beautiful point which you mentioned, that people in the microaggression part, where you mentioned that people do come up with comments like you just need a pocket money, or you so there, what happens, the impact of all that is sometimes that how do women navigate through all these negativity. So one of the things which again research has shown, that many times women also start downplaying their status as mothers in the hope of reducing the negativity. Okay, so they try to show, this is one extreme. I've also seen this happening in my organization, that you try to show that you are available all the time. Okay, somehow you also try to underplay your motherhood status. So that is also one of the things that that happens, because you don't have supportive team members, you don't have supportive policies, which make you again go through a stress and burnout.
Yeah, thanks, Manvi. I think some great points there. And I think having the ecosystem ready for a transition like this is so critical. And just adding a few points here, I think the teams also really have to stretch. So even recognizing the effort that, other colleagues are making, or even thinking when you're redistributing the work, if it can be a learning opportunity for one of the junior members or an upskilling, which, is going to support them going forward. These are some things that the manager can think through. And I mean, in an ideal world, we would like organizations to provide financial support to managers for replacement staff or maternity cover in this period. But I know it's not always possible, but that would definitely help managers. And I think, like you said, that sensitization is so critical, how to receive the message, how to welcome the women back, how to support the women during a medical emergency, talking to team members about what happens to the role of the person when she goes away, and how do we hand it over back when she comes. I think all these are very critical aspects, adding on to what you said, which can definitely help this transition. So thank you for that. I think we've talked a lot about challenges and issues to be solved, and we also talked about some of the things that organizations can do. So I think now, let's get into what are your recommendations on how organizations can build a more inclusive workplace for maternity returnees. So if you could start with you, Manvi, and then we'll go to Divya.
Uh, inclusive workplace is something that cannot be done in a single day, and there are different levels of changes that we require. A bit on culture, a bit on the mindset shift, policy shift. So a lot of things we have already discussed, and we also mentioned. So things like paid leave is already in place. We already have paid leaves, flexible working options after joining work, then crash facilities. Also, a lot of companies have this thing of protecting the appraisal when the person is on maternity leave. So a lot of companies have some kind of a criteria which is said that the person who's on leave, maternity leave, does not get anything less than this particular rating. So that part is there, and basically to help women ease back after the break is very, very, very important. A lot of women have these concerns that will I be able to join back the role that I was in? Is that role given to somebody else in my absence? So I think managers need to have these conversations before the person goes on a leave, that what is going to happen. Is there going to be a temporary replacement or a permanent replacement? Those things are always there at the back of the mind, so we need to ease that part. Then in terms of skill development also needs to the person, if the person is on leave, if the person is missing out on a particular skill, the onus is on the individual, or the company is also going to provide some help or support to upskill in the absence. So these are some of the things that need to be addressed, and a lot of companies are doing it. But I also feel that policies is one thing, but making this policy work in an organization and to be accepted by people in the organization is most important.
Thank you, Manapi. Absolutely. I think, having the right workplace culture, that's the toughest thing, because then everybody is involved, right, in building this inclusive organization. So thank you for that. Divya, would you like to share your thoughts on this? And I know you're also going to share with us some things that you do at CGI. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. So thanks, Shubha, for that. And I think, yeah, as Manvi rightly said, that we have the policies in place, but implementing them at the workplace is very important. Having said that, I would like to actually talk about what our organization, CGI, has in terms of policies for the women who are going through the maternity transition. CGI has been recognized as a great place to work and best workplaces for women. So, the reason for this recognition is the culture, what we build, the CGI dream, and also be unconditionally inclusive through our programs. One of such program, what we call as career relaunch program, right? As part of this career relaunch program, we have actually divided it into three different phases where during the pre-maternity phase, how do we help the parent to be right? So the first thing what when we had a discussion or had a survey within the organization also, and we have also done a market research, and what we found is they should be actually some education to be given to the parent to be right in terms of how do they have to maintain their mental health, or how do they basically in terms of how do they have to manage the labor and the birth, and also we also hear a lot of myths around, right? I know every parent to be will be always I mean trying to read and know more about it, right? So all those some sessions or webinars which can help the parent to be, so that they can themselves get aware of the things, and sail through smoothly during this maternity stage. Other than that, I think Manavi also spoke about securitization of the ratings, right? That's something I think every woman think through when she's going on a maternity leave. So basically, the performance appraisal is done for the complete year, right? And if the woman is going on a maternity leave, there might be compromises done on her rating. So what CGI has done is before they go on a maternity leave, we will have a discussion. The manager basically will have a discussion with the a member, and the rating will be locked at that point in time. And once the rating gets released, it has been shared across with the women member for her information. So the other one, what we are doing is something called Womb to World program, where we've done a partnership with the Motherhood Hospital. So that's basically an online sessions what they are offering us, which basically helps the parent to be to understand more on the labor, birth, breastfeeding, and handling babies, and many more. So this is during the pre-maternity stage, right? So during the maternity, what is that CGI is offering is basically having well-being calls with the member who's on a maternity leave. So basically, the plan is to start these conversations with the member after the 4 month of the maternity leave, to understand the well-being of her, and the next step what she would like to take, right? Whether she's planning to come back to work after 6 months, or she wants to continue her leave. So all that discussions happens, and month on month there will be a discussion with the member to understand this, and then a proper plan for reintegration will be plotted for her, which includes basically the technical gap assessment, and the upskilling her, and the programs or the technologies where she should be upskilled. And also there will be a buddy who will be assigned to her, through which she can get more help during the transition once she come back to work. So during the post maternity phase, basically we have a series of 7 workshops which we have planned, which helps the mother both professionally and personally to get inclusive to the workplace. So these are some of the policies what we have as part of the career relaunch program. But we do have other programs in place. One of such is Unnati, where we help the women members in her career advancement. So if she is looking for a next role in the organization, so there are some set of series of sessions basically in terms of professional development and also technical development, which will help her to advance her career. So these are some of the things what CGI provides, Shubha.
Thank you so much for that, Divya, and adding to some more of those based on what I've heard from some of our clients, and also from women leaders. I think one of the critical things is to provide a safe space for women to share the news. And a lot of women go through precious pregnancies, and there is a fear that they will get lighter responsibilities if they share, and they don't come out and share. And then if there is a medical emergency, or they need some reasonable accommodations. A lot of women go through morning sickness, but they're unable to share it at the workplace if they haven't shared news of their pregnancy and so on. It becomes very challenging for the young mother. So making sure that it is a safe space, and the young expecting mother can come out and share her news without fear of being penalized for that. I think that is very critical right at the beginning. That's the first impression you create with a woman who wants to announce her pregnancy. I know there are some organizations who are also, providing assistance towards expenses for fertility treatment, egg retrieval, egg freezing, even adoption and surrogacy. So this also, helps women employees when they're looking for such support from the organization. I think that during maternity phase is a very interesting one, because a lot of women don't want to be in touch with the organization. It really is a personal choice. Many of them feel isolated, and they want a mentor or a buddy from the organization that they can speak to, stay in touch, know what's going on. But some of them feel that this is their personal time. I think establishing that with the women employee is very important. Do you want to be in touch? And then allowing that personal choice. And of course we want to be supportive, but we also have to understand what the young mother wants. Post maternity, I think, Divya, you also talked about it, and Manvi also talked about it, the guilt that a young mother feels, especially because of the gender role, expectation, comments that they hear from everywhere around them. I think this is something a lot of women talk about. So, helping them work with that guilt, giving them exposure to other senior women in the organization who've been through a similar journey and navigated it successfully really helps them. And I think one of the other challenges that a lot of women face is unexpected leaves. Right, suddenly the child is unwell, and you need to take that leave, and it's so difficult to ask for that because that work has been planned. So if organizations can look at how to support them when there's a medical emergency, have a process where the workflow is well documented, there is some kind of backup for the person, so they're not under stress and they don't feel guilt in asking for unexpected leaves. You don't know when the child is going to run 103 temperature, right? It could just wake up one morning and there's a crisis on your hands as a young mother. So I think this is something, again, that organizations should think about, that women don't feel guilty asking for unexpected leaves. And the last thing I want to talk about is encouraging shared parenthood. I know a lot of progressive organizations now look at primary and secondary caregiver, and encouraging the secondary caregiver to take leave and support with the maternity process. I think that's so important. It eases off a lot of load from the primary caregiver, and you actually start celebrating parenthood even at the workplace. If we wish the secondary caregiver and not just the primary caregiver, and make this look like something that is completely acceptable for you to take leave and for you to be part of the process. I think it makes a difference to both the partners, encouraging shared parenthood. So those are some things, and I know there is a lot more to talk on this, and I want to allow some time for questions. So, Mitch, if we could ask you to share what have been some questions coming up that you may want us to talk about. Okay, so I have this question that Mitch has forwarded to us, and I'm going to read it out, and Divya or Manvi, whoever would like to take it. Probably I'll share this with Manvi. So the question says, how can managers and supervisors be trained to provide effective support and accommodations for maternity returnees while maintaining productivity within their teams? So Manvi, you want to take that question?
Yeah, I think we discussed some of this in our earlier question. So, Divya has already presented, the CGI has amazing policies. So, I think, some of the things that CGI has already been doing can be, discussed here. So, managers, as I said, are a very integral part of the ecosystem. So, they can be trained by, by having some kind of sensitization sessions, also making them aware of the policies, like when you include them, and when you're, suppose that you're making a policy on a probably a returnship program that you are designing, like the way CGI is done, so you should make the managers a part of it. because when you make them a part of it, they will also get interested. It's not like it's thrusted on them. They are also a part. They are also enabling this, and also provide them and make them understand the linkages between this policy and productivity and engagement, because every manager needs people. You can't achieve your goals without people in your teams, and you also not only need people, you also need people who are engaged and happy. So making them feel that this is a part of the transition, and it's not, let's not make it very disruptive. Let's enable this through support and care, and that's the way these things can be done. So this is one of the things that I just making the answer very short and simple. It would be that sensitizing, making them involved in the process, and then only these things will have an impact.
Sure, thanks, Manavi. And I also know it helps to kind of, build a business case. This is a pool of talent, like you rightly said, Manavi, that's engaged, that is skilled, that you have trained, that knows the context, that has a great network within the organization, right? Imagine in the 6 months they are away, right? You will take 3 months to shortlist CVs, 3 months to onboard somebody, and then the new person comes in completely fresh. And because you didn't support the women through the transition, you may not be able to retain that resource, or the resource may not be as engaged coming back if they've had a negative experience. So there's definitely a business case there. Also, the fact that you want diverse perspectives on the team. If you're not going to support women going through this phase, and a lot of your team members are likely to go through this phase, and if you start losing talent, which is the reality today, we start losing this talent, and then you start realizing that 5%, 10% in teams at middle to senior levels, and then you're wondering, how do we hire them back, what do we do, and so on. So I think catching it early, at the very beginning, when women are sharing the news and making it a positive experience for the managers and the employee, and enabling a smooth process, is definitely a good business case. Manvi, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to add that I have seen this working out in by in some of the organizations where I have worked, that I have seen that managers giving very good rating, performance rating to women going on maternity leave. Like it's really surprising that the manager when the person is going, you don't even know whether the person is going to come back. But managers, irrespective, are very very objective. They give the rating, and they also make the transition very very smooth, have a very healthy conversation with the person, say that probably whether the role is going to be there, what is going to be the way forward. So those managers who do this kind of these things very well, they are the people who will never lose talent, and they will have these people coming back to them fully engaged.
Yeah, great point there, Manvi. I was also thinking, that there are sometimes special situations, right? Women may go through, unfortunate circumstances, maybe a miscarriage or a stillbirth. And these are very, very sensitive situations. So I think, and not many of us know how to handle such situations, especially with empathy. What should we say? What should we not say? And how do we integrate the member back? How can we make reasonable accommodations? What kind of leave can we give them? How can we get them in touch with the support they need? Maybe it's a counselor or whatever. So I think this is specifically, this is something that you need to train all people managers are on, because I think none of us know how to deal with this, right? If we don't know specifically what we should do in these circumstances. And I was talking to another leader recently, and she was sharing with me that a member in her team went through a miscarriage, and nobody knew how to respond. And it becomes very awkward for everybody, and then the team member starts feeling everybody, I don't know how to respond, and they start feeling a level of isolation there. So I think definitely, people managers and even the team need to be sensitized. And I found one of the great ways to do this is also through theater, or where you can share, videos or live examples of women going through the process, because unless you're in the shoes of the women herself, you don't know what this journey looks like. So getting women to talk about it openly in the organization, or even sharing snippets of some of their journeys, I think can be extremely helpful, because then you start relating to what are the challenges the person is facing. Divya, you want to add? I know you have a member who recently went through maternity, and What do you see the managers?
I think, yeah, I think the support is something which we have to sensitize with the manager, because some of, as Manavi was rightly speaking about before, right? We have policies in the organizations, but the managers might not be aware of it in that level of depth, right? So that is something I think we should have sessions. 6 months once for the new managers who joins in, to make them understand what are the policies we have around this maternity transition. That's one thing. And if they are having a fear in terms of some skill is getting out of the pool because they are going on a long leave, and I think rotation is other one which we can think about, right? We have skills around in our organization itself, and we can get them very quickly instead of going out for hiring. So that's another one I think we can consider here. And the third one could be, we know, like now I think most of the managers are aware about this, or they should have also gone through the situation when they had looked at their relatives, wives, sisters, and also they are matured enough to understand themselves. I think so. These are some of the things I just wanted to add.
Yeah, thanks, Divya. And I was also recalling a best practice of one of the clients that we work with. They actually have an intranet site for a working parents group, and for parents and carers. And this is a forum where people can share resources, service providers, and so on. So in a way, you're engaging all the parents in the process. And like you rightly said, you don't leave it to saying that it's just the woman who's going through the process, let her handle it on her own. But as an organization, you're encouraging all parents, um, in the sense to know what's going on and to support the women through this journey. So yeah, I think some great examples there. I think we're almost out of time, and I think there's just one last question. I think we've spoken about this, but any other thoughts on this, and I'll put it out to both of you. And this question says, how can we promote work life balance for maternity returnees? So any thoughts on that? Manvi, you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, so work-life balance is, I think most companies have this. That after this maternity break of 26 weeks, most companies have that flexible, work policy. That is like that extends up to another 1 year, or 9 months to 1 year, and the person is given flexibility either in terms of the number of days the person has to work, or the number of hours. So that is there because companies also understand that the child doesn't grow in the 6 months, and the child is not ready. So that, depending upon the individual, how you want to transition, whether you want to come full time, or you want to take it slow and then be back. So that is there, and most companies have this policy. But what is sad is that in spite of all this research, I mean, there's so much of data. Divya also shared some data, and I've also come across studies that in spite of having all this in place, still women leave the workforce, for good. And I mean, that actually needs to be investigated and studied further. That what is it, in spite of having flexible work, crash facility, so many things, what is it that stops women to reintegrate and come back to the workforce, either fully or in a phase wise manner? So what is it? And then organizations should see what is it. So these companies, when they come up with this, CGI has this returnship program, I'm sure there must have been some kind of a thinking that would have gone, some study they would have done internally, that what is the need, what is it that our people need, and then these policies have been developed. So this need, I think this need to do much more work than what we have currently.
Yeah, thank you, Manvi. And I was thinking and reflecting when you said we're doing so much, but what could be other challenges? And that you're absolutely right. A lot more research needs to go into that. One of the things I can think about is, whether the person has the right kind of family support, and what kind of messages are they hearing in terms of whether they should be part of the whether they should continue with their career, or they're being told that you should be the best possible mother and so on. And here I think some organizations do work with the partners, maybe the families themselves, whenever possible, do some workshops that all of them can attend together. So I think one of the huge things that still need to be addressed are mindsets. And it's not just the mindset of the working mother, but in general in the society, and the families as well. I know, Divya, you also talked about this, how critical it is for families to support working mother. You have any thoughts on that?
So I think there's one thing we can organization can help through is through the employee assistance programs, right? Where there can be some resources or support for managing these aspects of their lives, where there will be some counseling services or referrals to the childcare resources and assistance, both personally and professionally. So this can help the working mothers. And also I think if we have such things in the organization, that can help the working mothers during this transition.
Thank you,
I
Divya.
just
Yeah, yeah, Manvi, go ahead.
like to add one more thing is that somewhere I feel that women are also very hard on themselves, because in spite of having all these policies still, because I feel there the role of organizations like yours, interview, comes into picture, where you do a lot of workshops, either as a part of the women's leadership development program or any other workshop that you do, where you talk about this, the imposter syndrome, or that perfectionism streak that most women have. I have seen women, they want to give their 100% to every role that they do. So when it's being motherhood, 100%, when you're an employee, 100%, so everything there, that actually some kind of a coaching or some kind of a mindset change is important. And I think there the role of companies like Interview becomes very, very important.
Thank you, Manvi, and thank you, both of you, Divya and Manvi, for such a rich conversation. I'm just looking at the clock, and the time has run out, and I'm sure we have a lot more to share. But it's been an absolutely wonderful experience hearing from both of you, two different perspectives, and excellent discussion. So thank you for that, and thank you for everybody who logged in. And we hope that this conversation will support you in enabling maternity returnees come back to inclusive organizations. And I also want to thank the team back at Interweave. I can't take everybody's names, but want to call out Mitch and Smita, who have made sure that we were able to put this together and have this session today. So thank you, and we hope to see you in the next thought leadership session. And thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.